Hello guys, this is Panzermice36, and today's video is going to be, I guess, MQ&A episode 2, over a year after the first episode. Yeah, I just kind of, I don't know why I didn't do any more episodes of that. I got some good questions on it, but I mean, I just kind of didn't feel any need to answer them more in a video, but I got some good questions that I want to answer today. So, I was asked, within the span of a couple days, essentially the same question, part of it in an email, and then again that same question also was in a comment. And the question is basically, it's kind of like three parts to it almost. And it's, how do I decide which techniques I'm going to do on a tank, like if I'm going to do a filter on it or not or something like that. The other one is, like, do I base my work off reference photos and where do I find those from? And then the third part, which is in the actual comment on the video, was how do I, or how did I learn all these techniques? Was it through trial and error? And I think I'll start with the techniques. So it's kind of complicated. But I actually really never thought about this as much as I did when I was trying to answer the questions, basically. So it kind of depends. Let's start with the filter. So the filter in modeling is, it kind of has two uses. So first of all, you might use it to correct the base color of the tank if you don't like how it's looking. And then second of all, you can also use it to kind of blend and fade camouflage colors together to make them look like they belong a little more together. Kind of like tone them all down and kind of unify them a little bit. So, that's kind of the reason why I sometimes don't use it. So for example, on the first standard weather procedure video Stug, that was a solid base yellow, and then I gave it a filter. Like a tannish red-brown filter color. And that was because I didn't like the base color too much. The base color at that point, it's just solid yellow. There's no camouflage on this at all. It was a little bit too green, I think, so I tried to basically cut that down by applying a slightly reddish brown filter. And since, you know, green and red are opposite colors on the color wheel, if you mix them together, basically, they'll kind of cancel each other out and make a little bit more of a grayish tint. So, yeah, basically that red filter was to kind of cut down the green in the base color of the camouflage there, the yellow. And it actually did work. But then, for example, a tank with a camouflage pattern, let me get you an example real quick. Alright, so here, this Stug 4 with the snowplow, still not finished. It's been like this for like a year and a half. This one, I gave this one a filter with some oil paints. And that's because it has a very strong camouflage pattern. And I wanted, when I first airbrushed it on, since I kind of airbrushed a little bit heavy and didn't really, you know, it wasn't a light camouflage color. It was like, you know, I'm just basically painting it on the same amount of paint or same like thickness of layering as I did the base color for the green and the brown. So they were quite stark and it looked kind of, you know, toy-like. It was just like yellow, brown, green. But when I kind of got in there with some yellow paints, mainly yellows, also use a little bit of green and brown, just kind of overall the whole thing. Use the same three colors of the camouflage to kind of just do like an overall dot filter kind of stuff. And that kind of helps too, as you can see now. Well, you can't see what it looked like before, you don't really have much of a reference, but as you can probably see, the colors are quite unified. Or they at least look like they go together a little bit more. So for a filter, the reason why I might not apply a filter is because if the tank is a solid color and I like the color, it's already, I don't need to correct it at all. Or if the tank has like a minimal camouflage pattern. So for example, the second standard weather procedure video Stug, the one with the yellow and the very thin green line camouflage, since the camouflage was very minor, it was very thin lines, and the thin lines I applied them in numerous coats with very thin application of paint, they didn't stand out too much, so they didn't need to be kind of toned down and blended in with the base color with the filter. I'll take an example here for this Stug I'm working on currently. Just a little bit of a sneak peek on what's coming soon, but basically, here's a Stug. It's got a camouflage pattern. Probably not going to filter this because you can probably see that basically the way I airbrushed the camouflage there is that I had a cool photo. We're going to cover this later, but I had a cool photo of basically a camouflage pattern that looked really bad, like a crew applied one, and it looked like basically the guy who was spraying it had kind of like outlined the areas he wanted to make the camo stripes, and afterwards just kind of went in and went and just kind of like squiggled in the rest. So maybe you can see kind of like up here maybe That's exactly how I did it. I airbrushed the camouflage in like the outline, and then I went in afterwards and kind of did like swirlies and zigzags, and I've also got like down the side skirts too and stuff. So since the camouflage on this one, once again, it was built up in thin lines and it's not entirely opaque, since I didn't do a full fill-in. I did only like the zigzag. It's not too strong, and therefore it doesn't really need to be toned down and blended in. Of course, you could always just do it anyways. Like I don't think any harm could really come from applying a filter. You're just basically applying another layer of enamel paints, and you don't really need to do it, and you don't really need to not do it. So yeah, it's not entirely necessary, but you can do it if you want to kind of blend things together. I've probably been talking 5 minutes already and just about filters. Alright, next up, let's talk about chipping. So, on a tank, I might do chipping. Actually, I'll probably almost always do chipping because it looks kind of cool. On a more fresh vehicle, I'd probably keep it pretty minimal with just doing it by brush or with sponge. But if I want to do a heavier chipping effect, let's just talk about only base color chipping, not hairspray, not whitewash chipping with the winter camouflage on top. We're going to talk about just the base color chipping. So if I want to do like a decently heavy amount of chipping on a tank, I might do it by brush, or I might do it with the hairspray chipping technique. And why would I choose between the two? This is kind of what the whole question is about. Why do I choose certain techniques over others? Or why do I choose to do a certain technique and maybe not do a certain technique? So the reason why I might do hairspray chipping on a tank is because I find that it's actually faster to do hairspray chipping. Even though it takes a little more time maybe to initially set it up, the actual chipping process is much quicker. So basically for the hairspray chipping, you say you apply a coat of red primer to the tank, hairspray, top color, and then you chip it. The actual chipping, you just kind of do it. It takes no time at all, and the actual airbrushing of the initial coats and the hairspray application doesn't take very long at all either. But if I were to go by and do it all by brush, painting on the chips with paint actually, that takes a little bit longer, actually probably a lot longer. So I usually try to do hairspray chipping when I can because it's faster and easier, and then you can actually get really, really fine chips with that. But there's a few times where I won't use hairspray chipping, and that's actually kind of go back to this tank here. So there isn't really any chipping on this thing yet actually because I haven't finished it. But it's if I were to hairspray, or if I were to do chipping on this one, I would not do hairspray chipping because there's a heavy camouflage pattern with 3 colors on there. So hairspray chipping, I'll do it if I'm doing like a single color tank or a tank with a very minimal camouflage pattern that I can airbrush quickly, because if I were to go by and paint this one again or something like that, I do the hairspray, or do the initial coat of paint, then hairspray, then I airbrush the base color of yellow, then I airbrush the base color of green, then I airbrush the base color of brown, and therefore like 3 hours have gone by, and by that point the initial layer of paint, the base yellow, will have had a lot of time to set, and so it'll be very, very hard to chip. And also the fact that there's 3 layers of paint on there now in some areas, like you'll have some yellow, then some green, some brown layered up basically. The more layers of paint you have on there, the harder it'll also be to chip. But if I'm just doing like a single color tank or a tank with a very minimal camouflage pattern, there'll be a lot less time for the paint to set on top of the hairspray, like the top colors. So it'll be much easier to chip it, and also there'll be less layers of paint to try to soak the water through to activate the hairspray and expose the underlying primer color, which is how you get the chips in the first place. So that's how I will decide between doing hairspray chipping and not hairspray chipping. So for example, on the yellow Stug I did the standard weather procedure one with the very minimal green camouflage pattern. I did hairspray chipping there because it was easy. But like I said, this one I wouldn't try it because it's not going to go out well. And the Stug I just showed you here, the one with the horrible camouflage pattern that I did on purpose, this one's actually going to have very minimal chipping on it in the first place, so therefore I'll only do it by brush because that way I have more control. I could have done it with hairspray and just been very, very careful because there isn't very much layers of paint on here, so this one could have been either way, but I just kind of want to do it by brush because I haven't done that in a little while and I don't want to lose my skills. But yeah, I'm happy with how this one's coming out. There'll be some videos on camouflage painting on this one, and I may be doing some tool and detail painting and stuff like that. Maybe next week, you never know. So yeah, what else? What else? Oh, photos. Okay. So I do base a lot of my work off reference photos, basically all of it. and I get all my reference photos essentially off Facebook and a couple of books that I have, but most of the books contain photos that I already have via Facebook or something like that. So I'm a part of a lot of Facebook groups that just share photos of tanks and things like that. And yeah, I just go through there a lot, and maybe every day I'll say 1 or 2 photos that I see are interesting. So they're essentially photos that have something cool in them. Maybe the entire tank is cool, or maybe there's like, this tank has a little bit of water streaks in the back, you know, like where the mud's been like dripping down or something like that. And then what I'll do when I'm actually doing a tank is I always base it off reference photos. And I'll try to take, and I'll not just do one photo. I'll take a bunch of elements or a bunch of different photos, try to incorporate them into one tank. Basically because I do so few tanks, because I'm pretty slow, that if I were to do only one aspect of interesting whatever on each tank, I would never be able to get through all the interesting things that I want to put on tanks. So let's get this dug out here for example again. So this one here, I have a photo of the tank itself in base yellow with the same, with these little things in the front there, the same kind of color, but without the camouflage. So, and I had also the Scherzen on, like missing one here, and also the toolbox here. That's all based off one photo. Now I have a second photo that has this camouflage pattern. It's a different tank. It's earlier. It's like Kursk era, and so I kind of put those 2 photos together. And I've also put the jack on upside down because I saw that in the video that Hamilcar Barkus put up when he was on the when he was riding the Hetzer with Adam Mann, maybe 6 months ago. So basically, I've taken aspects from 3 different tanks and I've incorporated them into one vehicle. Actually, probably more like 4 photos because there's a couple other little things in that tank that I've also based off other photos. So yes, I base a lot of my work, probably all of it, off reference photos, and often what I'll do is I'll have an initial photo of the tank with maybe the markings that I think are cool, or just like, you know, the tank itself looks interesting. Like maybe it's like a Stug 4 with Winterketten or something like that. Then I'll go, okay, I'll do a Stug 4 Winterketten, make it look like this, and then I'll find another photo of an interesting camouflage pattern on a Stug 4, and then I'll just kind of put that on the initial like photo, kind of merge them together, and then that'll be my tank. And maybe I'll have another photo of some tank with you know, like heavy mud kind of caked around the front area or something like that, and then I'll try to put that on there as well, and so on. And usually it's like, you know, about 3 or 4 photos. 1 is the initial base, and then 1 is the camouflage color, and then maybe like 2 or 3 more are little interesting details, like, you know, the sledgehammer is like on the roof or like wedged in behind something. And yes, that's basically how it works for me. I have lots of photos that I think are cool. I have about I think about 4,000 photos in one big folder. And they're all those interesting things, and they're all like unorganized. There's like a T-64 here, and a Stug here, and a Tiger here. And someday I want to get through them all, but I have like a second folder, which is the really interesting ones that I'm basically see as my priority, or see as things that I'm building soon. And then those are the ones that I have interesting photos for in this subfolder. It's like they kind of migrate from the huge 4,000 photo folder to like the 100 photo folder for my current builds, basically. Yeah. I like rambling a lot in these videos, as you can tell. Hope you're still watching. I have no idea how long it's been, maybe 12 minutes already. And finally, I want to get over the last bit of this question. What was that? It was, how did I learn all these techniques? And yes, it was through trial and error. I have a lot of early tanks that I, you know, was starting off the hobby about 4 or 5, I think 5 years ago was when I started up. And basically, yeah, a lot of the techniques I learned initially were through trial and error, which would basically be like streaking with acrylic paints. Don't do it. I learned that the hard way. A lot of the things I initially did learn were basically like trial and error experimentation. And I had lots of fun doing it, because, you know, and I still do that to this day, actually. I have a bunch of, I have like one of my drawers here. You probably can't see this from your angle, but it's like, I have like you know, a couple Panzer IV hulls you guys have seen. I have a T-34 hull here. I've got this T-55 that has like 3 different camouflage patterns on it. You got German camouflage pattern, you got like US, Russian, you've got Panzer Gray, Primer Red. And if I ever want to try any techniques, try any filters, I'll just toss them on here, and I can basically just focus it on a certain area. And then this will be like a test piece in the future sometime if I ever need it. So yeah, basically I still do lots of trial and error. It's a very good way to learn techniques, because not everything you see on the internet, or you see me doing in my videos, you see me doing a certain technique, you might not be able to do it. I certainly can't do lots of things that I see other people doing. I like airbrushing camouflage patterns well. And because of that, I need to practice my own techniques and kind of modify things my own way. And that's kind of how I learned that. I didn't really invent this technique, but I basically do like color modulation with oil paints instead of with airbrushing, because I suck at airbrushing. So I'll actually, you know, do like the highlights and shadows by basically blending in lighter yellows and darker yellows, or whatever the base color of the tank is, on the higher areas and lower areas of the tank. I went over that a lot in my first standard weather procedure Stook video. So if you want to see more about that, just go there and watch it. I think I covered it pretty well there. It was a pretty good video. I liked it a lot. Yeah, so lots of trial and error, trying techniques that I see people doing, or just kind of having fun. I think like, oh, I can try this maybe. Let's just try using oil paints to make some mud texture. So I'll just try it and see what happens. Just don't try it on like, you know, pieces that you're like currently working on and you hope to do a good job. Often I will have like a piece like this. If I'm doing a tank, I'm not sure the filter is going to look well in it. Like let's say that's stood there. Well, maybe this isn't a good example, but I'll take like a spare piece of plastic, airbrush the same camouflage colors on it, and just put the filter on there. And then if it looks good, then I'll actually put on the real piece. So it's like a trial and error initially, like a test piece, and testing. And yeah, you should really have like a test piece with you to initially practice airbrush camouflage patterns on, to make sure your airbrush is spraying well and make sure that the colors are going to look nice together. And you can also try some weathering on that. Yeah, this whole video is like no structure to it at all. I'm just talking, but hope you guys are enjoying it. Yeah, I hope this video series is kind of interesting to you guys, because I think it's a little bit more about me, which usually my videos aren't. But I don't hope you guys enjoyed it. So I hope I kind of covered the question well there with a really long rant. But it's a very good question, because I never really thought about how I decide which techniques to apply. Like usually I'm just like, okay, we're going to hairspray chip this one. And I never really thought about why, but now I'm thinking more about it. Yeah, it depends on the amount of layering of paint there, the amount of camouflage pattern there is on top of there, which will make it harder to hairspray chip. I mean, if it's a winter whitewash, I'll always hairspray chip that, because it's a thin, quick, single layer of paint. So that's an example where I will always use hairspray chipping. But then afterwards, you know, you go by and do a little bit of extra chipping by brush. So that's a little bit of almost both aspects there. Yeah, so with that, I think we'll cut the video here, because I've been talking for way too long, and I'm pretty sure I covered the question well enough. If I didn't, you guys can ask more questions below. And since this is Mahler's Questions and Answers, MQ&A, I want to get you guys talking in the comment section. If you have any questions, ask me. You know, you just want to see like how do I recommend you do Rust? Well, I can talk about it, and I can even do a quick demo here or something like that. This video series is basically built off of you guys asking me questions. And there are some good questions that were asked, you know, last year on the last episode, MQ&A episode 1. And I'll probably get to those eventually, but yeah. These videos are actually pretty easy to make. I prefer to weather something for you guys, because I like the videos to be more about actual tanks, not me. But that's fine. So I guess we're done now, and I gotta thank the Patrons who are awesome for supporting me. We have Ricky from Ryan's Painting, John Butler, Ian Sistrick, Sam Murphy, Richard Ward, Johnny Foxtrot, Rudolph Kiraz, Oliver Hunt, the British Mother, and Mika Eastrock. I still don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. If you could message me somehow and let me know how to pronounce that, that'd be great. But yeah, I also want to thank Dr. EO, who supports me through PayPal, because that's also awesome. And of course, thanks to all the patrons who support me, because that really helps me, you know, getting tanks and things so you guys see the videos, because I don't really make that much money off YouTube, because, you know, it's YouTube, and if you want to make money off YouTube, you don't do this. It's not profitable. And also, I have an inbox review coming up maybe next week, or maybe the week after that. I haven't actually thanked all you guys properly, all you patrons properly at the end of that video, because this was filmed like 3 weeks ago. So I'm sorry about that in advance. I do appreciate you guys. I just didn't know you were all there at that time when I filmed that thing like a month ago. So yes, thanks for watching, guys, and hope to see your comments below if you have any questions for me to answer in the next one. I will try to do these videos whenever I kind of feel like it. If it's a really good question, like the ones I was asked in the email and the comment, like within a couple days of each other, and it's really something I want to answer, like yeah, they'll probably get right into it right away, like I did now. So yes, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.